Tonight on The Cycle, a massive forest fire kills dozens in Portugal. Jay-Z is having a really big week, and the 60 words that allow the war on terror to continue. All that and more coming to you live right now.
Welcome to a new week at The Cycle. I am Jacques Slade.
You are. I'm Aaliyah Jasmine. Let's jump into those stories that have been dominating the day, just in case you missed it.
Senate Democrats plan to use every trick in the book to delay the vote on the GOP healthcare bill.
Yeah, you know, the healthcare bill that could leave so many Americans uninsured that the Republicans are keeping a secret. For real, it's the only government secret that they haven't leaked.
Yeah, right. The Dems plan to object to every order posed on the Senate floor, grinding government business to a complete non-functioning stop. So, you know, it's just like any other day in Washington.
Yeah, and in a move that could have big implications for our Congress, the Supreme Court announced that they will hear a case about gerrymandering in Wisconsin.
SCOTUS could definitively rule gerrymandering unconstitutional, and that's good news for Democrats who have been shut out of a number of House races in recent years because of some questionably drawn districts.
But fairly drawn congressional districts could pose a problem for Democrats. Now they'll have to think up entirely new ways to lose.
Yeah. Next up, Jared Kushner spoke. Like, he actually spoke with his voice. Yeah.
At a gathering of CEOs in Washington, the first son-in-law discussed technology's role in government modernization. For example, he commended the VA for establishing electronic records of veterans' health.
And kudos to Twitter for establishing electronic records of the president's mental health.
Finally, the Russian government threatened that they might begin shooting down U.S. and U.S. allied aircraft in Syria.
Normally, we can avoid Russian planes in Syria because, and this is a real thing, Washington has a special hotline for communicating with Moscow. That's right. They actually call it a hotline.
Yeah, and now Russia has cut off that communication, so it sounds like we might be headed for World War III.
It's not good.
And if you call the hotline right now, we'll waive the shipping and handling. Operator standing by. What are you waiting for? Do it.
The hotline bling. All right, and that's in case you missed it.
Okay, and now some super important headlines not getting the attention they deserve. This is Below the Fold.
A massive forest fire ripped through Portugal, killing more than 60, including at least 30 people who got trapped in their cars when flames overtook a road.
Yeah, the fire started on Saturday and is still burning. Portugal is in the midst of a heat wave with temperatures hitting well over 100 degrees. These conditions contributed to the fire growing as quickly as it did.
Our thoughts are certainly with Portugal, and we're going to put a link in the comments about how you can actually help. Okay, next up. A database containing information on nearly every single voter in America was left unsecured on the internet for 12 days.
A cybersecurity expert looking for vulnerable databases discovered that a Republican analytics firm stored the home addresses, phone numbers, and voting history of roughly 200 million voters on an Amazon account without even using a password to protect it.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
It's crazy. It's all gone now. Don't worry, it's all gone now. But for a few days, it was great to see who your slightly racist uncle and, weed smoking aunt really voted for.
They really are the perfect couple.
They are.
Moving on, the Supreme Court ruled today that it's unconstitutional to ban registered sex offenders from using social media.
The unanimous decision struck down a law in North Carolina that made it illegal for sex offenders to access any online service where they might interact with kids. The court ruled that blocking people's access to social media is a violation of their First Amendment rights.
Yeah, AOL is very excited. Their chat rooms will finally have users again.
Yeah, it'll be lit. All right, finally, Jay-Z announced today he'll be releasing a new album entitled 444 at the end of the month.
Of course, this comes on the heels of reports that Beyonce gave birth to the couple's twins this weekend.
Wow, she just cannot be upstage. She's like, oh, you're dropping an album? Fine. I'll just drop 2 humans.
And that's Below the Fold. Okay, so now it's time for a story that most people thought was TLDR, or too long, didn't read.
There's a good chance you saw this crazy sounding story going around about Leonardo DiCaprio having to surrender a Picasso painting to a federal investigation. But that's just the beginning. The claims made in the suit are crazy.
Yeah, so here's the breakdown. Some investors put a bunch of money into a Malaysian government fund, but more than $4.5 billion of that money was taken out of the fund, funneled into a Hollywood film production company, and used to purchase lavish goods, many of which were then given to celebrities as gifts gifts.
And now the Justice Department is trying to get all that stuff back. All in all, there's about $1.7 billion worth of assets supposedly purchased with the stolen money.
Yeah, the list of items allegedly purchased includes an original Picasso and one of Marlon Brando's Oscar statues, both given to Leonardo DiCaprio as a gift, millions of dollars in jewelry gifted to Miranda Kerr, a 300-foot mega yacht, a $35 million private jet, a stake in Flywheel, the bike fitness company, and finally the rights to movie classics like Daddy's Home and Dumb and Dumber 2.
Wow. Now, Leo is apparently fully cooperating with authorities. Reports say he's already given them the painting, the Oscar, and a really intense speech on climate change.
This story has everything, international intrigue, beautiful models, stolen riches. So naturally, DiCaprio is already attached to the film adaptation.
Yeah. You know, that means we're not stars because we didn't get any of that stuff.
You didn't get a Picasso?
No.
Ooh.
And that's TLDR.
Okay, finally today, war. What's it good for? Our closing segment. We're going to look into the decades-long debate over the constitutional framework that gives a legal basis for war. And I know this might seem boring. It's eat your veggies.
All right, we know it's dull, but it's really important. And it's going to be in the news a lot tomorrow, so we're giving you a head start so you can look extra smart at the water cooler tomorrow. To make it not so boring, we're going to break it all up break up our talking with some hilarious clickbait, like this footage of what has to be the world's largest, or I guess you could say fattest rescue cat.
So cute.
Look at that.
Star of the new Dove campaign. Okay, so let's begin. Tomorrow, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee will hold a hearing on the authorization for use of military force, or as we call it here, or wish it were called, the AUMF.
Yeah, so what is the AUMF, or AUMF? Let's go back to 2001. After the attacks on the World Trade Center, the president understandably wanted to go after the people responsible. But the Constitution says that only Congress can declare war. You see, the founding fathers saw the state of the world in their time and thought we shouldn't have the ability to start wars at the hands of unpredictable executives. Given our current executive branch, I'm sure you can kind of agree with this idea.
Yeah, so 3 days after 9/11, Congress passed the AUMF, a bill that fits on a single piece of paper. The core of the bill is literally one sentence long, a terrible run-on sentence, but I digress. The idea is that the AUMF authorizes the president to use the army against terrorists. And I can tell that we're probably losing you here. So here's a photo that's very funny. It's an underwater creature that some Australian scientists shared on Twitter.
Wow, okay. That's adorable.
It's interesting looking.
Yeah, all right.
Just please note it's called the peanut worm,
anyway,
and not what you were probably thinking.
Right, absolutely. Anyway, back to the history lesson. The AUMF passed with a total tally of 518 yeas and just a single nay vote. That came from Barbara Lee, a House member from California. 3 days after 9/11, Representative Lee stood in front of the House chamber and said this.
Our country is in a state of mourning. Some of us must say, let's step back for a moment. Let's just pause just for a minute and think through the implications of our actions today so that this does not spiral out of control.
Yeah, it was a risky vote. Barbara Lee set herself up for an intense backlash by being the only person to vote against going to punish the people that perpetrated 9/11. So after the vote, she received countless racist attacks and even death threats. But you know what? She was right.
The AUMF initially did the job it was set up to do. It granted President Bush the right to go into Afghanistan, and later it gave President Obama the right to kill Osama bin Laden. But that's not where things stop.
Yeah, the AUMF is so broad and nonspecific that it's been interpreted to justify military action in Syria, Yemen, Kenya, Ethiopia, Iraq, Somalia, and many more places. It's a legal basis for our war on ISIS, even though ISIS didn't even exist on September 11th.
Yeah, it has even been cited as legal justification for the prisoners at Guantanamo and warrantless wiretapping. All right, we're at the home stretch here. To keep you around, check out this website that uses an algorithm to generate names for adopted guinea pigs.
Okay, what are some of the names?
Pop Chop and Fuzzable. Flurry White and Stargoon, like that's like a Marvel
Stargoon's a great
star.
name
That's
for a
good
guinea
one.
pig. Okay, so basically America's entire war on terror is authorized by a single run-on sentence passed 16 years ago. To put things in perspective, the number one movie in America that day was Hardball, a movie you probably forgot existed. It's the one where Keanu Reeves teaches brown kids baseball and a few life lessons along the way.
Those are the best movies, the brown movies. Or like they have the people come in and teach the brown kids stuff because brown kids apparently don't know stuff. Anyway, all right. The fight against terrorism has changed drastically in that time, but the law that allows it to continue has not been reconsidered at all. 80% of the people in Congress today were not around to vote for the AUMF when it came around, but there's still widespread hesitation about doing anything about it.
Yeah, Obama asked Congress to consider a new AUMF in 2015, but that went nowhere. No one wants to vote on something that makes them look soft on terrorism. Two senators, former VP candidate Tim Kaine and Republican Jeff Flake, are once again trying to revive the debate. They have a new bill they're trying to get through Congress, and they're at least forcing Senate hearings to discuss the issue.
So whatever you think about the war on terror, bombings in Syria, drone strikes in Iraq, or special forces sieges in Yemen, you have to believe that we should at least have a conversation about what our president and our army should and shouldn't be allowed to do in the name of the USA. And that conversation, well, it has to start with the representatives we elected to Congress. One sentence written 16 years ago is not enough. Call your reps, say AUMFs, let's fix the AUMF.
Yeah, AUMFs. That's it for the cycle today.
All right, and we'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, if you want to see more, like and follow us at The Cycle Live. Good night.
Good night. Adopt, don't shop, everybody.
Make sure to follow us at The Cycle Live on Twitter and Instagram.
And like, share, subscribe to us on YouTube and Facebook, all that good stuff at The Cycle Live.